They told you to be realistic. They told you to play it safe. But what they never told you, what they were too afraid to say themselves, is this. Nothing extraordinary is ever born out of safety, and no greatness ever bows before fear. The world does not belong to the cautious. It belongs to those who dare to walk through the fire of uncertainty with their heads held high. Those who feel the tremble in their bones and move forward anyway. Those who, despite the storm, act as if they fear nothing. It's not arrogance. It's not recklessness. It's not blind courage. It's faith forged in the furnace of the mind. Because fear is not the enemy. It's the test. The final gatekeeper between who you are now and who you were always meant to become. You see, every titan you admire once stood where you are, trembling, alone, conflicted between comfort and calling. Lincoln, they called him a failure long before they ever called him president. Ford, they laughed when he tried to give the common man a motorcar. Disney, he was fired for lacking imagination. Carnegie, a poor Scottish immigrant with nothing but dreams. Hill, a humble writer chasing the secrets of kings. And yet, each of them did the unthinkable. They acted as if fear had no power over them. They moved with certainty long before the world gave them permission. They walked into rooms they weren't invited to. They spoke visions no one else could see. Why? Because they understood something the world forgets. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to rise despite it. When your back is against the wall, when doubt wraps around your throat, when every voice screams, turn back, that's when destiny whispers, act as if you are invincible. Because in that moment, your identity is not shaped by what you feel. It is shaped by how you respond. Fear is instinct, but power is practice. Power is a choice repeated 1,000 times in silence. When no one is watching, when the applause is gone, when it's just you and your reflection in the mirror. Asking, am I ready? Let me tell you something that will shatter the way you've been taught to think. You don't wait for readiness. You create it. The soldier doesn't wait to feel brave before entering the battlefield. The visionary doesn't wait for validation before speaking their dream. The builder doesn't wait for blueprints from the heavens. They act. And in their action, clarity is born. In their commitment, confidence is built. In their forward motion, fear loses its grip. Because motion is the medicine. And hesitation is the thief that robs you of your power. So what do you do when fear stands in front of you like a towering shadow? You step forward anyway. You speak the words anyway. You try again, even if your hands are shaking. You walk into that boardroom, that audition, that interview, that stage, as if the outcome is already yours. Not because it is, but because you've decided to earn it with your belief. That's the secret of the greats. They weren't born braver than you. They just learned to train their minds to ignore the noise. Napoleon Hill once said, "Fears are nothing more than a state of mind." But what he meant was even deeper. If fear lives in the mind, then courage can be chosen in the mind. You are not your doubt. You are not your past. You are not your worst moment, your biggest failure, or your greatest mistake. You are potential in motion. You are possibility wrapped in human form. You are, if you choose to be, a force no fear can hold. And the moment you begin to act that way, the moment you carry yourself with the poise of someone who has already conquered their demons, the world begins to bend in your favor. Not because it's magic, but because confidence is contagious. Because certainty magnetizes success. Because your posture becomes prophecy. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a powerful decision. And that decision is simple. Learn to act as if you fear nothing. Not tomorrow. Not when you have more experience. Not when the stars align. Now. Because the world is not waiting. And neither is your purpose. And if you think this is just talk, let me remind you, everything that was ever built in this world was built twice. First in the mind, then in the hands, but the mind must go first. It must declare, I will walk through this fire, and I will come out forged. Because if your mind bows to fear, your body follows. But if your mind stands tall, unbending, unwavering, unafraid, then even in chaos, your steps carry purpose. That's what Edison did. He failed over 1,000 times to invent the light bulb. They called him mad, obsessive, delusional. But you know what he said? I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Do you know how a man speaks like that? He acts as if defeat has no dominion over him. He walks as if the outcome is already etched into time. He decides he cannot be broken. And that's where your power begins. Not in what you hope will happen, but in what you refuse to let stop you. You've been taught to think in reverse. To wait until you feel confident, then act. To wait until the path is clear, then walk. To wait until the critics are silent, then speak. But the world doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards audacity. It bows to those who move before the conditions are perfect. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if fear had no say? What conversations would you start? What career would you chase? What version of yourself would finally break free? Because that version, that bold, unwavering, fearless version of you, it's not fictional. It's buried beneath years of small thinking and whispered doubts. It's buried beneath what the world told you you're allowed to be. But it's there, waiting, clawing to rise. And all it's waiting for is your permission. You have to be willing to walk into the arena, unarmed if you must, and look fear in the eye, not with a trembling heart, but with a knowing smirk. As if to say, I see you, but you don't decide what happens next. I do. That's not fantasy. That's mental discipline. That's faith forged from choice, not circumstance. Think of Carnegie, the steel tycoon who once earned $1.20 a week. He wasn't born with connections. He wasn't handed legacy. But he had one thing most men lacked: vision that outgrew his fear. He didn't wait to feel qualified. He qualified himself through motion. And that's the piece the world misses. Motion builds belief. Every act of courage, no matter how small, adds a brick to the foundation of your confidence. Every time you speak, when your voice shakes, every time you try again after falling, every time you show up when it would be easier to hide, you are training your nervous system to rise. You are becoming dangerous in the best way, because nothing scares the world more than a man or woman who has decided not to be owned by fear. And if you want proof that this works, just look around. The highest paid people on earth, they aren't always the smartest. They aren't always the most talented. They are the boldest. The ones who walk into rooms they don't belong in and make themselves belong. The ones who speak their ideas with fire, long before the applause. The ones who act as if success is already tethered to their steps, and then live up to that energy. You must understand this. The world believes what you broadcast. If you broadcast hesitation, people will treat you like an afterthought. If you broadcast fear, they'll overlook you. If you walk like you don't belong, they'll agree. But if you walk like a lion, they'll make way. Not because they know your story, but because they can feel your certainty. And that certainty isn't a gift. It's a muscle that grows every time you move through fear rather than around it. A muscle that strengthens every time you decide to stand tall, even when your knees want to buckle. You have to stop waiting for someone to come along and remove your fear. That's not how warriors are made. You don't escape fear. You overwhelm it with motion. Because when you move, fear shrinks. When you speak, doubt quiets. When you act, clarity rises. And the more you act as if you fear nothing, the more truth you breathe into that belief until one day you wake up and realize it's no longer an act. It's who you are. In that moment, When the act becomes the truth, when the armor is no longer worn but grown into your skin, that is when life begins to obey you. Because the universe does not respond to begging. It responds to conviction. It responds to the man who walks with vision in his eyes and fire in his step. You don't attract success by hoping for it. You attract it by radiating the energy of someone who has already decided it's theirs. And make no mistake, people can feel it. Before you even speak, they feel it. They can feel when you carry the weight of hesitation, and they can feel when you walk with divine confidence, when your spine straightens not from pride, but from purpose. And if you're wondering where to begin, I'll tell you, begin where you are. Not where you wish you were, not where they said you should be by now. Right here, in the middle of your unfinished story, in the noise, in the pressure, in the fear. Because this is the only battlefield that matters, the one between your ears. When you win there, everything outside bends to follow. Do you want to know why most people never rise? It's not because they aren't talented. It's not because they lack opportunity. It's because they wait for fear to go away before they begin. And while they wait, fear grows teeth. Fear feeds on inaction. It multiplies in silence. It builds castles in your mind every time you choose comfort over calling. But when you move, when you speak, when you build, when you write, when you lead, you break the back of that fear with every step. Because fear cannot survive in the presence of momentum. So act. Before you know what's next. Before you have the whole map. Before the voices in your head say you're ready. Act anyway. That's how every great movement in history was born. Not with full clarity, but with full commitment. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't see every step of the journey when he declared, "I have a dream." He just knew he had to take the first one. So what are you waiting for? Who are you waiting for? There is no knight on a white horse. No magic moment. No perfect sign. There is only now. And your decision to become someone fear no longer owns. Every day, life gives you two options: shrink or rise, hide or declare, delay or move, survive or command. And if you want to lead, if you want to write your name into the pages of time, you must become the kind of person who walks into the unknown and dares it to stop you. There is a reason lions do not fear the jungle. They do not second-guess their steps. They do not wonder if they're allowed to roar. They know what they are. And so must you. You must wake up each morning, look yourself in the eye, and remind your soul who it belongs to. Not fear, not the opinions of men, not the ghosts of failure or the chains of past pain. You belong to vision, to power, to purpose, to God-given potential. And the moment you start acting like it, truly, fiercely, unapologetically, the world will begin to treat you accordingly. Not because it changed, but because you did. So from this day forward, let it be known. You will walk like someone who has already conquered the fire. You will speak like someone who does not bow to doubt. You will live like someone who has decided am no longer a prisoner of fear. I may still feel it, but I will no longer obey it. Because I am not here to be hidden. I am here to rise. And I will rise by acting as if the outcome is already mine. I will rise by moving with the energy of destiny, by speaking with the gravity of truth, by deciding again and again to be bold, especially when it's hard. Because greatness does not arrive. It is summoned by action, by audacity, by the soul of someone who refuses to live small. And if that's you, if you are ready, then there is only one thing left to do. Act. Act like the door will open. And it will. Act like the battle is already won. And you will fight like a warrior who has nothing to lose. Act like you were born for this, because you were. The same fire that burned in the hearts of revolutionaries, inventors, and kings, it burns in you too. The blood that ran through Lincoln's veins when he held a broken nation together, the breath that Edison inhaled the 1,000th time he rose from failure, the backbone Carnegie forged from poverty and turned into empires. That same divine thread is stitched through your spirit. And what separates them from the billions who vanish in silence? They acted like they were meant for more. They moved before anyone believed in them. They spoke even when their voice cracked. They walked into destiny, not by invitation, but by decision. That is the calling. Not to wait for certainty, but to create it. To become so rooted in purpose that no setback, no insult, no loss can shake you from your course. Yes, fear may knock. It may rise at night. It may whisper in your darkest hour. But when you train your mind like a general, when you command your thoughts like a leader of nations, you do not flinch. You do not fold. You rise with stillness in your soul and steel in your eyes, and you say, I was not made to cower. I was made to climb. And that's the truth no one told you. Bravery is not something you are born with. It is something you rehearse in silence. You don't wait until you feel powerful. You pretend you are powerful until pretending becomes performing. And performing becomes identity. That is not delusion. That is strategy. That is Napoleon Hill philosophy in motion. You must remember, all success is first a performance of belief, and belief is built by action. You want to rewire your brain? So you want to silence that voice that says, you're not enough? Act like you already are. Walk into the room like you own it. Show up for your dreams like they're inevitable. Speak your name like it matters, because it does. Don't you understand? The world is watching to see how you treat yourself, and it will mirror your energy. If you hide, it will ignore you. If you bow, it will forget you. But if you rise, if you carry yourself like a storm is coming, and you are the thunder, then everything around you will adjust to your vibration. So today, right now, you draw the line. No more shrinking. No more explaining. No more waiting for some magical sign to prove you're worthy. You are already enough. But only if you decide to act like it. Act like fear is beneath you. Act like the vision is already breathing inside your chest. Act like your time has come, and make that act your new normal. Because that's how leaders are made. That's how legacies are born. Not from more knowledge. Not from a more talent. But from the audacity to move like destiny belongs to them. You don't need guarantees. You don't need applause. You don't need more time. You need to become someone who moves forward anyway. You need to tell yourself the truth, even when it hurts. You need to chase your calling with the kind of focus that scares small minds. You need to believe in your bones that you are here for a reason, and then walk, talk, breathe, and build as if that reason will not be denied. Because fear is a liar, and belief is a weapon. So wield it. Wield it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. The life you dream of, the peace, the impact, the freedom, the fire, it's not waiting on luck. It's waiting on you. It's not behind a locked door. It's behind a fearful mind. And you are the only one with the key. Do you hear that? That quiet sound just beneath your doubt, under the weight of your excuses, that is destiny calling. Not with a scream, but with a whisper. Because it only speaks to those who listen and act. And the ones who do, they don't wait for the fear to leave. They don't wait for the path to clear. They walk through the fog, heads high, hearts steady, eyes on a world they're about to create. That's who you are. You've just forgotten for a while. But now it's time to remember. Remember what it means to show up like you were made for this. To look resistance in the eye and say, I don't need it to be easy. I just need it to be mine. Remember what it feels like to trust yourself more than your fear. To love your vision more than your comfort. To run toward the roar instead of away from it. Because your freedom will not come from outside. It comes from the moment you stop asking fear for permission. It comes the moment you rise and declare, I will move, I will speak, I will try. I will fail. I will rise again. But I will never bow to fear. You are not here to play small. You are not here to wait. You are not here to be liked or understood by those still hiding from their own greatness. You are here to burn with purpose, to love with clarity, to build with boldness, to live with intensity. So from this day forward, you walk different. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You walk like the storm is behind you and heaven is ahead. You walk like the mountain already moved. You walk like a soul no longer seeking validation, but walking in revelation. Because you now understand, there's only one way out of fear, and that's through it. You do not need to eliminate fear. You need to outgrow it. You need to become so focused on what must be done, so obsessed with what could be, so connected to who you are becoming, that fear becomes background noise in a life too loud with vision to be shaken. You were not put here to tremble. You were not made for hesitation. You were not born to be ordinary. You were made in the image of courage. You were made in the likeness of fire. You were made in the silence of eternity and the breath of purpose. So act like it. Act as if every step is sacred. Act as if your voice carries the power of generations. Act as if the heavens watch your every move, and smile when you rise. Learn to act as if you fear nothing. Because the truth is, when you do, there is nothing left to fear. Let the world feel your presence before you speak. Let them sense your vision before you show them the plan. Let your life become a monument to the man or woman who said, I felt fear, and I moved anyway. This is your hour. This is your proof. This is your roar. Now rise and act. So if this message stirred something inside you, don't just feel it, live it. And if you know someone else who's forgotten their power, share this with them. Let them remember too, because we rise together, and we rise by example. This isn't just a video, it's a reminder. You were never meant to fear the fire, you were meant to become it. Now go, act like you fear nothing, and watch what happens next. Subscribe for more fearless energy. Comment below. I choose to rise if you're ready to act like fear was never part of your story. This is just the beginning.